President Trump praising the conclusion of the House Intelligence Committee's Russia probe, with the GOP saying there's no evidence of collusion, to former FBI Deputy Assistant Director Danny Coulson. Danny, of course we know this is the House version, but it's been a long time with the Mueller attempts here to connect these dots, and so far no one has been able to prove that there has been any collusion.
That's right. And, you know, I think the predication for this whole investigation on the part of the executive branch and the legislative branch was kind of weak to begin with. And, Charles, if there had been one scintilla of information that would involve not collusion but conspiracy, which is the only thing that matters, that would have been leaked to the media. The Democrats have been doing press conferences, and none of that's happened. Even Dianne Feinstein has said, and she's certainly not a shill for the Republican Party, she's an adversary, she said she doesn't see any indication that there was any kind of collusion that would amount to a conspiracy. So I think they need to close it down and move on. And by the way, the hardest thing to do is close one of these things down when you don't have a positive result. It's always somebody's going to say we could have done more, and that's the problem that Bob Mueller's going to have, and that's the problem that the Republicans are having too.
You know, it's interesting. Dianne Feinstein, perhaps that's why she's paying such a heavy political price with the Democratic Party abandoning her.
Maybe.
You just made a great point, and maybe you can flesh it out a little bit more for the audience. The difference between the collusion and the conspiracy part of all of this.
Sure. Charles, you and I can collude to have a surprise birthday party for a member of your family. That's okay. Having an agreement that nobody really knows about, that's okay. It's when it's criminal, it becomes a conspiracy. When we conspire to violate the election laws, or we conspire together to commit some other federal or state crime, that is a criminal act. And whether or not you engage yourself in the act or not, the fact that you're part of the conspiracy is a criminal violation, and you can be prosecuted for that. You cannot be prosecuted for collusion. There's just no criminal case there.
And I should point out the Democrats still haven't come out with their conclusion with this. Speaking of which, we only have a minute left, but is it possible to give some sort of a timeline? Because it does feel like from here on out, the longer it takes, the less credibility it might have unless they get a blockbuster decision.
Well, I think that as I said earlier, it's hard to close it down when you don't find a positive result. You know better than I do. It's hard to prove a negative, and that applies to the legislative branch and to Bob Mueller too. So they need to close it down. We spent enough money on this, and let's move on. We got a lot of problems in our country right now, and let's go after the right things.
Danny, I think you're right. I think the American public is tired of it. I think even Saturday Night Live is starting to push back against this, which says something. Danny Coulson, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
It's always.